Let's get into draft, guys, for game 2 of this fearless best of 5 between MKOI and G2. Warwick banned away immediately by MKOI, Maokai removed by G2. There's the Leona ban as well. It is interesting to see how the draft evolves. I think a lot of people are very happy that Camille, Ambessa, Senna, and Smolder will no longer be seen.
Well, I love those champs though. They're fun to watch.
For one game.
Now we're going to get Azir, Corki, Maokai, Sejuani.
Oh, God. Oh, goodness.
You know how things go. When the draft gets deeper, you tend to simplify more than you do complicate.
But we're only in game 2.
True. So right now I'm expecting complicated, edgy stuff. Let's see what direction we go. Right now, a lot of the traditional quote-unquote safe picks are being taken away. This Warwick priority, I think, is super interesting, especially when we know that the Pantheon is already taken out of the pool.
And the Ambessa.
They're taking away the Jax once more. The Gwen has been left open, though, which makes me feel like...
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay, so G2 recognizing that that power top pick is available. But yeah, the Varus... Taliyah is the big one for me.
Taliyah, Azir, I think you can go for the trade. So maybe you just go for Varus for Supa, and you're happy to get the other side for Jojo. No, okay, get the Azir.
Okay, Azir means that Taliyah is still available for caps if you want it. I'm a little surprised that MKOI didn't go for the Taliyah with how well Jojo's been playing on that, but obviously prioritizing the Azir. Question is where G2 will decide to go at. It's Jojo's most played.
Broken Blades?
Yeah, but then Galio immediately into it, no?
Sure. I still think Rumble is insanely strong. Taliyah does make a ton of sense. Also, I just think that this is more Taliyah favored than the Azir for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Like, I just think she gets better push, her side lane threat is stronger, and obviously they're both very safe in a side lane, but...
Do you also want to guarantee the Zins out here for yourselves? Because you kind of want something that's a bit of a skirmishing bruiser in your jungle if you're going to be paired with the Taliyah.
I think it's fine, yeah. I would be aligned. I also think it's reasonable if they want to lock in their AD carry. It depends how much dive they want to go again. It looks like no dive. Instead, they'll just stick with the traditional Varus, one of Hans Sommer's most played of the splits. But that's kind of true for all AD carries. This split, I will admit.
Super good poke, really strong. Can go on hit or can go that lethality build. Super playing Ezreal into it wouldn't surprise me at all. That is his most played this split. Alongside it's going to be the Leona into low mobility carries. It is a very good pick, especially into Taliyah, because a lot of people will be like, oh, you can't Zenith Blade in because you're just going to get CC'd. Solar Flare you can chuck out from a mile away and still connect with it. So I do like the Leona into Taliyah.
I think it also kind of forces the Alistar pick here, or at least that's something to answer for. Maybe even Nico, actually, but okay, yeah, it will be the Alistar pick here to make sure that you're going to be able to dissuade some of that engage in the bottom side of the map as well and keep this Varus safe. So it also means that then you're looking at, hey, maybe we can start to back away some of these jungle picks in this early rotation, things like the Zins out, because I think for Elyoya, you're kind of happy to even go back towards something like the Maokai. You've set up, sorry, Maokai's gone, but one of these, like a Sejuani, which is just this engage tool for your squad, because you've already got a ton of DPS in your team, and Myrwn can always fall back in towards something like a DPS champion that top side as well.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a much more conventional draft here from MKOI. Not that game 1 was too unconventional, but a little bit more just like, hey, we're just going to teamfight well. We need a tank for our front line, whether it's from jungle or from top. Who knows? And maybe a little bit more damage from somewhere else.
I mean, KOI could just do the Sejuani plus Bruiser top lane, and then you've got the very traditional long-range front-to-back, the Nidalee ban, I think. I think worthwhile when directed towards Myrwn, especially when he is so comfortable on the pick. G2, though, I think with the Alistar, their engage is fine. They've got good follow-up with both the Taliyah and the Varus. They can be very flexible with what they want to do in jungle right now, whether they want to go for a tankier frontline or if they want a little bit more skirmish power.
I'm wondering if, just because the Poppy ban, they're actually setting up for a Jarvan pick here for Elyoya. You've got two fairly easy to lock down carries on the opposite side. Now with the Naafiri locked in, it does make it a little bit more difficult because I think Naafiri can very quickly clear your jungle and kind of make it a bit more of a issue. So maybe you have to pivot here, but something to keep the eyes on.
We'll see where they decide to go. It does look like currently it's going to be the Sejuani. I like the Naafiri from SkewMond. We haven't seen him bring it out so far this split though, so a little bit new. Does really rely on having pushing lanes, which Taliyah and Varus can give you, at least in the early game, because you want to be invading. You want to be getting into that enemy jungle, being a nuisance. Ivern locked in for Elyoya.
Like it.
Yeah.
I think it's just we talked about how already the composition was very front to back. Now it's very much hyper carry driven. You put Jojo and Supa into the carry role where you give them all of the resources. They have a ton of protection.
Okay.
And you double down with a poke. Throw out a Jayce in the top side of the map. I like what KOI have brought out.
Also, it's the poke and the double non-committal engage. Like, we already talked about the solar flare, but even the Q from Ivern means you can just kind of fish for these plays without having to fully commit into a Taliyah or the Varus ultimate, and you can keep yourself kind of at arm's length. So I really like what MKOI brought to the table, and also just the Jayce adding to something where you don't have a pushing top lane, so there's always that little bit of an issue if SkewMond tries to invade top side, that Myrwn can just rally around Elyoya to keep him safe.
I will also say that in the past, I've seen KOI do this exact same comp, but they did it with a Braum instead of a Leona. And I've always taken issue because they always draft without any hard engage. So the poke lands, but then they can't actually convert it into a fight. So by prioritizing the Leona, I do just like this a lot more, because once that poke does connect, they at least have a tool to force the fight in Alvaro, who is very good at finding those fights. So overall, I'm a big fan of what KOI have drafted for themselves.
G2, on the other hand, round out their draft with a Sion. I was wondering if they needed a little bit more engage in this comp and a bit of tankiness, and that is exactly what they went for. They have some poke of their own. I will say, I think I edge it towards Azir and Ezreal as the game goes on in terms of good poke damage. If G2 get ahead in the early game, though, it might be tricky for MKOI to survive that onslaught.
I think the value of Sion is it gives you a much safer space control. In that Sion is happy to face check in toward this poke that's coming towards him. It's much easier to fight over things like the river, whether it be starting or just tanking up that poke for his team. I think it makes sense in the context, but you're right that we'll see how well G2 can actually close the gap between them and KOI.
Let's jump on into game 2. G2 won the first in pretty dominating fashion. MKOI, though, coming off the back of a slog of a series yesterday versus Carmine Corp, will be wanting to answer back. The winner goes to the LEC finals in a couple of weeks' time, but also gets a ticket to Canada. A trip home for either Jojo or Dylan Falco.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
So the game. Level 1 wasn't a crazy big deal in the first game.
So Myrwn in the first game used a different emote and has now changed it to the same one that Broken Blade is using as his top lane emote.
As I was going to say, he wrote in chat, look. So definitely wanting to show
just top lane things, guys. Like everyone else say, oh, I've got to get my right position for level 1. It's like, no, I must show him. I changed my emote. This
is what I wanted the emote meta game to become. You know, where pros are just using it for both BM, banter, and just overall having a good time. And I'm glad we're seeing the emote meta evolve.
Oh, we're going to hand it over to Sjokz, who's standing by with Melzet. I wonder if she could ask just about how this draft has changed from game 1 and why it's changed so much.
Well, I'll relay that immediately, Melzet. What were the biggest changes you felt like you had to make, knowing that in game 1 it didn't go your way?
More to be calm, because we knew that they are going to do traps on silent with the TPs and with the moves, and I think we didn't respect enough. Also, we should look more for river fights, that they are not that great, and they are better at transition fights or fights in the jungle. So it's more than draft or anything else, it's just the mindset.
Okay, thank you very much.
Around a little bit, look for river fights, which is, you know, fights around objectives, around the Baron, around the Drake, rather than fights through that transition. And try and play around those side lanes effectively as well. Great to hear from Melzet. Thank you, Sjokz, as well as Alvaro goes in with the Xander's Blade, but a good pulverize from Labrov will stop him from getting that shielded Daybreak stun.
Yeah, nicely done by Labrov, and that's kind of the way you need to play this matchup, is just make sure that you're keeping the Leona off you with those pulverizes. And at the moment, it's still decent though. Supa being able to get some good damage down and trying to get control of this matchup, because again, when you're looking towards an Naafiri, these are kind of the things that you need, is pushing lanes to try and look for invades. And oftentimes my favorite way G2 have played the game out is when SkewMond is on something like, not the Naafiri, but like a Xin Zhao, where we get control with the Varus on bot side, we get that push thanks to the lethality, and then we just look for just trips into the enemy jungle, trying to play around Hansam and Labrov. And we'll have to see if they can try and get us working for them again as you start to get like Dirks and stuff coming through for Hansama, so we can actually get that push on the bottom side.
Very early TP comes through from Caps. Wants to get back to base so that he can secure that tier and start stacking that one up already. Full clear now completed for Elyoya before the Krogs Sorry, the Scuttle Crabs, my apologies, until they are on the Rift. It's just kind of what we've gotten used to with Ivern as a champion. You spend a lot of time just wandering around, which has both pros and cons, but the biggest pro being that it's very easy to support your laners when they need it. Right now, though, they're having a great old time. Bot lane has push. Top lane, things are going very well for Myrwn. And overall, KOI pretty content with how the laning phase is going for now.
Elyoya and SkewMond, neither of them have the smite, but SkewMond will secure the Scuttle Crab and can walk up towards the top side to get a second for himself. Elyoya is spending a little bit of time around bot here, but there's a ward in the tribush for Hansama and Labrov, so they should be fine. Myrwn needs to get this wave shoved in, knowing that his jungler's on the other side of the map to make sure he can put a bit of vision down and spot out SkewMond.
Yeah, Elyoya is sticking around here because the wave is pushing out from Hansama and Labrov, but there's not really anything on the map that you can actually get here as Elyoya. Your camps haven't respawned, and you already knew the SkewMond had first moved to top side with pushing mid, so you kind of have to let that one go as well. So seeing if maybe you could get anything on the bottom side, but not, unfortunately, going to be much there for him.
He does stop Caps' recall in the mid lane. The issue, obviously, for Elyoya on the Ivern is the time to kill of your first camp is much slower than other junglers because you have to set it up, you then run to the other side of the jungle, then you run back, and then you take your first camp. So his second jungle camp spawn is a lot later than SkewMond's. You can see SkewMond was already doing Razor Beaks, where Elyoya has only now prepped his Gromp to be taken.
Of course, unfortunately for him, making the I wouldn't say wrong guess, but the fact that SkewMond was there on the bot side of the map for the Scuttle Crab means that, as you guys already highlighted, the double Scuttle going in favor of SkewMond. The clear now coming through from Elyoya, though. He's going to make quick work of those camps and likely close that CS gap that currently exists between the two junglers. The G2 bot lane looking to push in this wave so they can get a recall of their own. Supa forced to stick around so that he can catch this wave as SkewMond, he has been spotted.
Going to try and sneak this away. Does have the smite. Elyoya with the root caller, though, comes in, immediately smites it. Doesn't even channel to secure that with the Friends of the Forest. Broken Blade on the wrong side of trades here with Myrwn, but deceptively tanky. Still has about 300 HP to work with, and that Soul Furnace, that shield he's got around him, obviously giving him extra health as well as he stacks up.
Also just popped the biscuit and the pot, so you can see immediately the health bar is shooting right the way back up, so he'll be fine. But I like the ideas here from SkewMond of, hey, is there any wiggle room that I can have? But push him mid.
Oh, Caps shuffled back, flashes away from Alvaro, who's still on the chase. The seismic shuffle will knock him back, but the Zenith Blade still connects with the root caller down. Jojo will be gifted first blood.
Nice gank from KOI as they set up Jojo for success. In the previous game, it was Jojo that fell prey to an early support gank, but Alvaro off to the races, finds a nice roam, and works nicely with Elyoya to find that pick onto Caps. So first blood in favor of MKOI.
Also, the fact that Caps end up using that TP early means he's got no way of getting back to collect this wave, so it will be SkewMond who looks for it, but I'm also keeping an eye on Labrov as he will spot out both Supa and Jojo starting to move in towards river there, so he's a skedaddle back towards his AD carry.
A little bit of an issue for Supa as that wave was frozen in the top side by Hansama, and it's going to be very hard for him to get back in here easily. Now that Alvaro's here, he can manage to work his way across, but he actually had about a 5 or 6 CS lead over Hansama, who has now got about a wave worth of advantage for himself.
He's trying to push what advantages he can, given the state of the lane right now. Ward going to be cleared out. Keeping my eyes on the junglers who have met each other in the river. And Broken Blades. Ooh,
Foxy.
I was about to say, a bit of a...
Nope.
Looks like he's not going to push his LEC. All right, then. He's going to be playing safe for now.
I think after they saw Elyoya up in that topside river, they didn't know where he went, and you can see he's currently hovering around mid. Could have come down towards that bottom side, and as tanky as the Sion is, with Daisy, with the root caller chase, it's very risky for him to proxy.
I think Elyoya's in trouble though. Supa's taking so much damage on top side that it's opened up Labrov now to move in towards here, with Caps having pushing mid as well. So Supa kind of taking that early damage, putting some pressure now on towards Elyoya as Jojo moves across to help.
And this is what we talked about with Naafiri. It's what you want to happen. You get your waves pushed in, people can't respond easily. Ivern is a good pick into it though, because if there is the risk of you losing your camp, if you've set it up, you can always just smite it immediately and then take it away from the enemy jungler. Obviously you only have a couple of smites to work with, as Myrwn continues to trade here onto Broken Blade.
So a quiet early game on the Rift.
Yeah.
Enjoying the spring sounds and the peaceful weather as we reach the 8-minute mark, and both neutral objectives are now available. Void Grubs and Dragon. Looks like the Void Grubs immediately going to be started off by SkewMond. Alvaro trying to get what information he can for his jungler. You'll notice on the minimap, Elyoya is making his way across. Jojo will get the push in mid. A single grub will be secured, and SkewMond's like, all right, that'll do for me. Chooses to back away.
Seems like it's enough. Elyoya coming across. Jojo, as you say, with that push in mid, means that MKOI have the man advantage. But Caps is on his way down towards the bottom side. We'll have the Weaver's Wall here. Myrwn is on the wrong side of the wall. Seismic shove won't knock him back. Good side steps from him. Does still have the flash, trying to get towards this wall to flash over it, and manages to escape. But the fancy feet from Myrwn gets him to safety.
Nicely played by Myrwn. I thought there was no way he was getting out of that one, but side steps and also just threatening the knockback on the Broken Blade, meaning he couldn't set up with the decimating smash and manages to get over the wall. Well played.
That's also just only good news for Jojo, because for every roam that Caps tries to make, it gives him an opportunity to free farm in the mid lane. Now, Hans and Labrov have shown up to answer that push, but I think Jojo's sitting pretty comfortably, especially when we know that normally in this matchup, the Azir can sometimes be in a lot of danger, but Jojo's had a fantastic time so far from the first 10 minutes.
And the small issue for MKOI of this sequence was they lose a plate bot, they lose a few minions bot lane. Broken Blade was able to TP top straight away to catch that wave, and in the mid lane, Hansama is able to catch that wave. So overall, MKOI probably lost about 6 or 7 minions experience and gold throughout that sequence.
And that's the part I was surprised at, because I thought they'd just have Myrwn TP back bot to collect the wave. They then could rotate Supa in towards mid, but and you kind of just cede control over Dragon, because I don't think in this position anyway you're going to be able to do so, or get control there, and Jojo can just rotate up towards the top side. But it feels like they're still kind of half toying with the idea of trying to match some sort of play by G2 to Dragon, but even now you can see mid and jungle have reset, so they're kind of behind. So that's why I'm surprised that they didn't just use Myrwn immediately to that bottom side.
It's something we've seen G2 do a lot with their Sion drafts, where they deliberately move him into the difficult matchups to try and put things like the Jayce behind. And I think that that's KOI's focus, is that they want to make sure that they're keeping Myrwn into that Sion matchup so that he can continue to build advantages. And right now, he doesn't have a kill, but he's got about a kills worth of gold over that of the Sion. So in terms of the matchup, it's going well, but you are right, Dagda, that there are some trade-offs going in favor of G2 as a result.
MKOI will be happy enough with the way this early game's gone. They scale incredibly well into this game with the Azir, with the Ezreal, and with the Jayce. Get towards 2 items. It's going to be a force to be reckoned with. First dragon of the game going over to G2. We've still got about 4 minutes before any more neutrals spawn, and neither team has really been able to find too much of a fight, except around those neutrals. SkewMond looking for Myrwn. No flash on him, remember. Naafiri very good at diving towers. Immediate TP, and G2 are like, yep, that's cool. You can TP over here. It's only Elyoya and Alvaro who are able to defend that mid lane tower, but should be able to stop Caps from getting too much.
Yeah, it's been a little bit difficult for MKOI as they're trying to match a lot of G2's movements around the map, and a lot of it has come from, again, like the fact that Hansama does now just get pushed with the Youmuu's Ghostblade completed, opening up Labrov to make roams around the map. Caps as well, the Weaver's Wall just about to come back up off cooldown, means he can start to roam around too. And you need to start looking as MKOI trying to get some sort of vision in River, so then you can stop G2 from just being able to take these quick moves in towards the side lane, because they want to try and shut down Myrwn.
Oh, SkewMond's going for this. Hound Pursuit in. A Broken Blade looking at the Unstoppable Onslaught as well. Can't quite connect onto Myrwn, but remember, this Jayce has no flash, and SkewMond and Broken Blade should be able to chase him down. The first kill of the game for G2 goes to SkewMond.
I mean, the gank is very simple, and there's not much that MKOI could cross-map. Broken Blade provides the utility, SkewMond provides the damage, and as you rightly said, Medic, G2 get themselves on the board.
And the thing is, when you have something like a Jayce and you're trying to play into the Sion, you need to play hyper-aggressive to get the value that you want. So traditionally, what you would like is to have some sort of plays on the top side, or waves on the top side, but Elyoya make them for the play.
Broken Blade shoves Daisy back, flashes away from the root caller.
Yeah, I was going to say, so what you can try and look for is like wards in towards the enemy jungle, like looking for one over here, we're looking for one in this bush as well, and just make sure that Jayce is then safe to try and play hyper-aggressive on that top side. But because you're losing the push in mid when Caps is rotating, or even the push in mid when Hansama is situated there, you're not getting those opportunities to get those deep wards to let Myrwn play safe. So he has to play aggressive with no flash and no vision, which inevitably sets him up for failure.
Hound's having a field day so far through this early game. 600 gold ahead. Jojo was on the top side, able to pick up 2 plates for himself, it seems. Ooh, almost 2. I think the plate went down there and Jojo was just out of range to collect it, but Vedi obviously...
It's not gone yet.
No, it's not gone. Yeah.
It is.
He's
2 HP higher than it needs to be. Well, that's nice from him. Emperor's Divide down from Jojo to keep Broken Blade at bay, but Caps is also looking for a flank position here. Jojo does still have his flash. SkewMond invading the jungle alongside Caps. Myrwn trying to come across as well. Will be a 3v2 in favor of MKOI, but they can't find an avenue into the fight. SkewMond will steal away the blue, and G2 will walk out.
But again, this is what I love when G2 play this style is, hey, we're just going to try and enable SkewMond. We're going to try and rotate into our side lanes. Like Labrov and SkewMond working together as this unit with either Caps or Hansama kind of filling that third part of the trio, because it's just so difficult to deal with. And it's something that G2 definitely lacked in winter and had lacked for a large part of spring. But it feels like every so often they get these comps that they just really understand how to get that jungle support working together.
Hans chasing in with the movement speed from Yumu's there. Solar Flare onto Caps. Puts down the Unraveled Earth. Seismic Shove will get Alvaro away. And Caps able to flash to safety. The Seraph's already complete on him, gives him the shield. After the fact, this Broken Blade continues to trade into Jojo. BB, predominantly armor on him, but SkewMond has the damage to follow up, and BB has the health. Unstoppable Onslaught immediately in. Jojo does still have the flash here, but doesn't burn it early. Hound's Pursuit there for the follow-up. Jojo slides his way away, but the chase continues from SkewMond.
I mean, this G2 top jungle duo is getting work done on the side lane. Their second kill of the game. They will also secure the first tower of the game for G2 as well. And it comes back to the side lanes. It was the story of game one, it's becoming the story of game two. And when we look at the minimap, we can see that, again, in terms of the lane assignments, it's G2 that's just that step ahead as Hansama continues that pressure on the bot side and secures another tower.
It's just because it's so difficult to try and keep pace, right? Like, Caps has just been sitting solo in mid to clear out waves, whereas Alvaro has been sticking around with Supa because he's worried about some sort of play happening on towards his AD carry. And if that's the case, you're just opening up multiple members to attack side lane. So even when SkewMond goes top, Labrov can cover bot, and you're basically always in this 2v2 situation, even if things go awry for G2. So it just works out so well for them.
It's pretty interesting because normally in a Sion composition, you should be having your jungler shadow your AD carry, right? And so the Varus, Alistar, you'd want to have the jungler there, and then you work with the prio that they have to play towards these towers. But instead, SkewMond is just ganking, and then Hans and Labrov are getting that pressure by themselves. Now, the Herald started. Let's see if G2 look for a fight.
I mean, Labrov's already stepping in. There's the TP as well from Broken Blade. Super down to half HP. Labrov, the first target. Unbreakable Will coming out from him. Broken Blade finishes the teleport. Daisy shoved back. SkewMond on his way across after securing the second dragon. True Shot Barrage dodged there by Labrov. Emperor's Divide available for Jojo, but no flash to get that slide and glide in.
Overall, the health advantage in favor of KOI. The top wave pushed in, the bot wave pushed in. G2 controlling these waves, meaning that KOI, even though they had positioning on the Herald, and even though they did really good damage down onto G2, ultimately they don't secure the objective. They are losing farm on the side lanes, and while it's on a significant gain, G2 is kind of creating a lot of pressure for KOI to have to deal with on the map.
And it's nearly a 3k gold lead now at 16 minutes into the game. Like, G2 have just been farming up where they need to in the side lanes. You've got the kills on towards SkewMond, and again, this control that they've offered off of the pushing waves has just set themselves up perfectly. And now MKOI TPing in, they want the repeat performance.
I mean, Broken Blade's worked his way down towards bot side, does have that Unstoppable Onslaught. SkewMond can eviscerate out of the back of the pit here if needs be. There's the Unstoppable Onslaught from Broken Blade to try and join in. Labrov jumps forward, no Unbreakable Will for him. Broken Blade a long way behind enemy lines here. Alvaro goes in with the Zenith Blade, but not real much follow-up from MKOI. SkewMond gets the Rift Herald as Alvaro falls down to 100 HP. Broken Blade still damn tanky. The Weaver's wall coming out as Cap separates the fight. Broken Blade on the wrong side of that wall. Labrov jumps back in, and there's another as Jojo falls. SkewMond still chasing the Hounds. They're out for blood. They're out to party. Elyoya dashes away, but you can't escape the wolves. True Shot Barrage just not clipping the heels of Hansama. G2 clean up the fight, find the Herald, and MKOI are left all unaware.
MKOI thought they could take the fight because they saw Broken Blade moving down towards the bottom side, but having that ultimate to close the distance and set up perfectly for the fight for G2 was everything they needed.
It's interesting how the idea behind MKOI's comp is poke. And Labrov goes in without his ultimate, but the poke just isn't really connecting. It's Hansama and Caps very safe on the back, focusing the support that's in front of them. Broken Blade now finds himself very deep, and they forced Alvaro back. So in the front-to-back fight, it's G2 that's already ahead. Then the fight literally becomes divided thanks to the Caps ultimate, converting it into another kill onto Jojo.
Also, Broken Blade getting incredibly lucky with that Caps ultimate because it knocked him over the blue pit wall, which then separated him from everyone else. But here we go.
Myrwn has the flash, will use it just in time to get away from the seismic shot, but the chase continues here. Labrov with a headbutt pulverize into the trample stun, and Caps throws a rock at him, and Myrwn is done.
That's where the hell has this G2 been all year? What the hell is going on? Playoffs hits and suddenly G2. They look unstoppable.
It's really impressive to me the way in which they're just avoiding all of this poke. You're playing against Ezreal, Azir, Jayce, and at no point does it feel like that their long-range threats are really that threatening.
Through the chicane, round, he gets it! Now he's in the middle of MKOI. I don't think he gives a damn. Merc Tread's already complete, has that Aegis as well. Supa has to flash away. Labrov on the backline now. Root Caller, Daisy will get a knock up onto him. I don't really think he cares too much. True Shot Barrage comes out. He does pop the Unbreakable Will just to make sure that he survives through any more. Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, G2 take away the blue buff. They push in the top lane. They have a 6,500 gold lead with 1:30 before their third Drake of the game.
And this is where it just becomes so difficult for MKOI to try and play out their composition. When you're behind as a poke comp, trying to contest base, trying to find windows to get into River to poke for anyone, honestly, because Broken Blade can be in a bush, Labrov can be in a bush, Chains of Corruption come out of somewhere, a Seismic Shove could be there. There's so many tools on G2's side to prevent you taking access to those dark areas of map. It's just, I don't know how MKOI find the moments they need to bring it back.
Now, I will say, Broken Blade having a fantastic game, but we're yet to see a good death from him, okay? To really complete the full Sion
That's why
experience.
Caps played Gragas. Makes sense now.
Dragon spawning in about 45 seconds. Typically, with a poke composition, you're actually fine with your opposition being on the objective first because it makes it that much easier to land that poke. And now your opponents have to deal with both the objective and the poke that's coming from long range. But this is the value of Sion that we talked about in the draft, that he can act as a wall. He can body block a lot of that poke coming in your direction. And it comes back to this question of how do they then close that gap and how do they connect that poke from the side of MKOI?
I wonder if we'll see MKOI trying to go for a trade. If G2 set up around the Drake, they sneak away an Artican towards the top side, play their vision around that. The risk, of course, is teleports exist. SkewMond very quick through the jungle as well if he does try and react. Cap's looking for something down here in the bottom side, but Jojo respectfully backing away.
Yeah, he did go over a ward, and I saw Alvaro kind of change his trajectory from mid lane to skirting down towards the bottom side. I wasn't sure if they're going to look for something, but Dragon is there for G2, and I don't think MKOI are really in a position to try and contest this, so they will just pick up the waves as they can.
Jojo going back towards the top lane. Does have that Rylai's complete. We're seeing this a lot more after the AP item changes on 25.10. Nowhere near as strong as he would like to be. Supa stacking up that Mana Mune towards the Myrwn mana. Is about 24 stacks away from having that completed.
Poke going to come through from Hansama, but not really going to connect. It's G2 that once again find themselves with full control over the game. The Sion continuing the push on top. And again, just look at the bot wave. Like, just look at the map state. Dagda, if you can just highlight the mini-map for me, it's just like KOI often find themselves in this position where that bot wave is just permanently pushed in, and then you can see Myrwn looking to try and group with his team, and look, he's being indecisive right now. Do I group with the team? Do I go and catch the bot wave? He has the TP available. I think it makes sense for him to catch that wave. He's now going to be forced to, as that wave is underneath the tower. G2 just threatening the Artican, fishing for a pick.
Most missed skill shot in the game, 100% sure of it. Chain of Corruption, you just can't hit it, you know?
It's a question of, did he overpredict?
Supa didn't dodge at all, so he definitely overpredicted.
Yeah, so Hansama probably thought he was going to keep walking, and then Supa's like, no, I'm not going to do that. In any case, you can see how hesitant MKOI are. They will gain some vision.
I mean, they're going to fight over this. Solar Flare, Hansama just walks away from it.
G2 is split up here. This could be a good angle for KOI.
4,000 on the other gun. Never mind. Never mind. The wall has been built. It's not blue, but it still keeps MKOI away from the Artican. G2 secure it. The Spirit Blossoms, the Petals, whatever, jump to 20 after being only 6 in the early game. And they'll continue to get 1 for every kill they get from here on out.
Yeah, I think it's also the fact you can get the big AoE slow as well, because a lot of MKOI are going to be trying to take space through their own jungle. I mean, you're moving through those corridors. That AoE slow is a bit of a pain. So I think G2 is in a very, very strong position. And now it becomes a case for MKOI. It's like, okay, well, what do we have in the tank for the next game? Because they kind of said, hey, look, they needed to change their priorities, try and get something that they could have some sort of effect on G2. But I haven't really seen it come to bear.
Yeah, the big things Mel's that talked about were getting side lane pressure and playing around objective fights, or river fights as he called them. They have definitely not had side lane pressure, and they haven't even had a river fight because G2 have just kept them so pinned back. So maybe if they can find a river fight here, they can win out.
Medic, look at the minimap again. So Sion is once again pushing in bot wave. MKOI are grouped up as 5 on top. Myrwn has just kind of walked from bot lane up to his team. They haven't found anything, and now Sion can use this window to regroup with the team once. He may even actually just stay here to try and keep the pressure up. I mean, right now it's not all doom and gloom, of course. It's not, of course, all doom and gloom.
He's looking. He has the flash. Caps will try and flash away, but he doesn't escape. And as you say, it's not all doom and gloom at all as Caps is caught by MKOI. The shutdown goes over to Jojo.
And this is, again, what we needed to see from MKOI. Just pull the trigger. Don't let G2 play the map. Just try and force a pick. You have the tools to do it, and it's a really good pick to alleviate some of that pressure. Now they can reclaim some map control.
Great predict from Jojo as well on the flash to get that scoop. But now MKOI, at least, as you say, buy that space that they need. No one going to face check any of these brushes to make sure that they won't get caught out. But yeah, much needed time bought. And items on towards Jojo going to be kind of the big thing that MKOI are playing with. He's the guy that can be that late game carry, but they certainly need to get those resources into him.
He has no ultimate. He has no flash. The Wolves are on the hunt. He does have a teleport. Oh, for a second, I thought Hound's Pursuit was going to come out and SkewMond was going to fly into the enemy base, but wise enough not to do so. I think for G2...
I think that might be Baron, by the way.
It could be Baron. It could also be wait for a minute and then do Drake for G2.
Well, I mean, just look at the map state, though. You've got Sion pushed in extremely deep in the bot lane. Taliyah's just pushed in top. Hansama's pushed in another wave. And then they have the TP from the Sion, and Azir just showed up bot lane, who they know has no TP.
That's smart from G2. Immediately go towards the Baron.
This is how you play the map. Like, it's so flawlessly done. KOI don't have an answer. There isn't one.
And you even got Labrov just playing bouncer in every bush along the way as well. G2 setting up very well.
Oh, they're going for the fight afterwards. Weaver's wall going in. Supa's going to have to jump the wall here. Alvaro the first to be caught outside, being shoved back towards SkewMond. Alvaro flashes over, will escape for now. Good damage coming out from Supa. Daisy in as well. Labrov looks for the knockback. Jojo with the Emperor's Divide. Broken Blade falling lower. The redemption coming out as well, but it can't save Jojo. Labrov taken out. 1-for-1 so far in the exchange. Broken Blade flashes away. And we'll get to safety. Importantly, though, with Ocean Drake up, G2 won't be able to fight over Soul.
That play was nearly it from Jojo, but as he goes in, the invulnerability comes through from SkewMond. We'll see it here. As you get the setup, it's Alvaro ends up getting the stun then onto SkewMond, so there's not really a huge amount of follow-up onto Alvaro for the beginning, and Supa getting to free hood over the wall, whereas there's not much play back. And here, as he goes in, the invulnerability from SkewMond means that he doesn't get hit. Broken Blade the only one shoved in, so MKOI actually able to get some decent damage back as the fight was relatively split from G2.
I think Elyoya just provided so much value in that fight. Not only was the Daisy just so obnoxious for G2 to deal with on the backline, but the utility that he was providing made it very difficult for G2 to really lock down a kill. Of course, at the Baron, G2 immediately back out onto the map, but MKOI demonstrated right there that their team fighting is still very strong, and a large part of why G2 have been motivated to avoid fighting them at all.
Makes sense from G2. Their side lane player has been exceptional this game. Broken Blade pushing in, but forced away from Jojo for the moment, at least for the time being. Wave and bot a long way away from getting towards that inhibitor tower. G2 will just group up towards this top side. A minute 30 on the Baron means they have 3 more waves to play with. Probably 2, because the first wave is not quite with them yet.
I really do think that KOI still have ways of winning this game just because their composition on paper, it scales still very well. It's got a lot of range, it's got a lot of potential damage, and these sieges are where G2 is probably at the greatest risk because the poke, like, it's much harder to dodge. You can see Broken Blade doing his best to try and tank some of the poke that's coming through. Supa is getting pretty low on mana, but this siege is not an easy one for G2.
G2 also don't have a huge amount of ability to hit towers from range.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just keeping the cannon minion as alive as possible. You can see Broken Blade just tanking up all the poke coming out from Supa. But they have to wait for the next wave, and it looks like MKOI will back away. G2 will crack the tier 2, 30 seconds left. It's the last wave with which they can really push in towards the base. Broken Blade still very healthy, very tanky. Seismic shove knocks Daisy back. Double cannons here.
Maybe trying desperately to get the Demolish proc with those 2 cannons might be enough to take it down. Now he steps in.
He'll get the Demolish proc. Look at the damage onto the tower. G2 will crack through the inhibitor tower line. Myrwn still looking for that flank, looking for the poke. Will take down a couple of the dogs, but not too much more. G2 rains an inhibitor to the ground, and now will retreat. Can use the last seconds of their caps, and Labrov recalled too late. They don't get the empowered recalls.
Still, they get an inhibitor, but to me, that really exemplified why KOI's comp still has an avenue to win this game. Just because it is a difficult composition to siege with, it means that G2 will likely need either a very one-sided fight or another Baron to actually close out this game. So KOI still have a few opportunities left to find a fight to potentially turn the game in their favor.
I do like the pickups, though, of the Serpent's Fangs coming through from G2.
100%.
Just trying to set up for... Because there's so many shields that are coming through. When you even look at, like, Ivern, obviously, but, like, the Locket that's there, all these other shields that come through as well. It's just... It means that at least you can get through some of them. But we already saw in some of these fights what Elyoya can do when he's just allowed to get all of his heals and shields off. So it definitely feels like you have... It's a battle, not so maybe uphill, but maybe like slightly inclined, you know?
Yeah.
And in some situations.
Like a 4-degree incline from time to time, you know? Dawncore almost there for Elyoya as well, which will only buff up those shields, will only help them out. SkewMond looking to try and steal away some of these camps where he can, but can't quite find any of them. Has a 3-level advantage over Elyoya, which is to be expected with how the jungle matchup has gone. A Flame Horizon as well for SkewMond, over 100 CS ahead on his lane opponents. G2 waiting out the next minute 30, just trying to push MKOI back as far as possible, because at that point, both the Baron and the Ocean Drake will have spawned.
Yeah, I think the issue for MKOI is that you're still kind of waiting on Jojo to kind of hit a 4th item before he's fully in position to just be like, cool, I can take over completely in these fights. And even if he wants to look at being that secondary engage tool for them, not having his Anyas means that he is a little bit vulnerable if he tries to go for some of these swoop and boop plays. So this is kind of where it's like, if they can buy enough time for Jojo to be relevant, great. But as you say, 50 seconds until Soul means that you're just ticking away on that time, and you kind of need to find maybe some sort of miracle steal or some sort of miracle play.
Will they be able to find it in this fight for an MSI berth? First team around the world qualified for MSI, the winner of this series. MKOI, as mad, have been a couple of times in the past. This would be their third, for G2, would be their 7th time going to MSI. Obviously, as we like to say here on the LEC, they won it back in 2019. No big deal, you know. It's the true shot, but Rush comes out. And as much as people meme on MAD as an organization at internationals, MSI has actually often been where they've thrived. Took D plus Kia to 5 games in the semi-finals back in 2021. G2 looking to set up around this Drake. MKOI trying to fight their way in, but they have no vision at all.
And MKOI are on a timer. Look at the top side. That wave double super creep's about to hit the towers.
Drake already down. G2 can look for the engage. Caps on a flank position here. And they don't really need to do too much more. MKOI couldn't fight their way through the tankiness of Broken Blade. Super Minions in the base. Caps has a Weaver's Wall. He's just looking instead for the bot lane tier 3.
I mean, KOI, they just can't get through the wall of Broken Blades, can they? The poke, I guess, is connecting, but not really. And now that poke really isn't going to stick with the Ocean Soul secured by G2 as well. The Baron going to be started off by the 2 of them. KOI will know that it's happening, and it looks like they'll go for a last-ditch effort to try and take it away. Jojo's on his way from the bot lane.
It's not the quickest Baron we've ever seen. But MKOI have now decided they don't need to see anymore. It will be G2's 32 minutes in. Ocean Soul, 7,500 gold. Their lead will extend to about 8.5k as they take the Baron.
But we already saw Broken Blade was just happy to stand in front of the poke that was coming through from MKOI and stop them touching the wave. Now he's got an Ocean Soul, which means he cares even less.
Yep.
And you've now got the Baron again. I don't know how MKOI defend the base, and it feels like it's just kind of this slow, inevitable march from G2 towards the MKOI Nexus.
Definitely feels like you use this time to think about Game 3, because given how the game state is, it definitely feels like an uphill battle. Again,
Supa was feeling blue there for a second.
A little sad to not have seen more of what this comp is supposed to do. We got a glimpse of it in a few of the fights, but I mean, G2 have really just avoided any full-on 5v5s, and they've just been playing around the lanes masterfully, making it very difficult as KOI is constantly split apart, indecisive on how to manage the map pressure, and G2 have slowly but surely just taken full control.
I really loved G2's early game lane assignments, because it really felt like MKOI just were dizzy afterwards, and I think this is something that's been missing from G2's game plan, but not anymore when it gets to playoffs.
Broken Blade just steps forward, Solarflare hits onto Caps, but all the hits after is a Mystic shot from Supa. Good job threading the needle, but the damage doesn't matter. Yeah, as you say, basically back to full with that Ocean Soul. SkewMond is pushing it through on that mid wave. Only has one cannon minion here, and Jojo's doing a good enough job of keeping him at bay, but with the top lane inhibitor respawning, I wonder if G2 will transfer their pressure over towards that top side again.
Jojo can't even get through the shield of Broken Blade. And look, he's good now. He's just casually healing it all back up. Yep. It's like that it is just the simple, slow and painful death of MKOI here in game 2. Like, they'll look for one last miracle fight, because it's pretty much all they've got left.
Broken Blade taking a little bit of damage, but nothing too substantial. SkewMond is pushing in the wave in that top side. Obviously, very slippery if MKOI do engage on him as Jojo goes in, finds the flash out of Hans Summer. Chain of Command is going to land, but Hans is down already as Jojo finds one. Broken Blade trying to flash the wall. Unstoppable Onslaught slams into the base of Jojo. There's two for MKOI. SkewMond, Labrov, and Caps have to walk away, but that's the engage MKOI have been waiting for.
I can't believe FLICKR found Ruler in the mid lane like that. It's absolutely insane, but Jojo, huge play to catch out Hans Sama and actually set up for a bit of base defense, especially with the Rebel Baron power play. This was kind of the last-ditch effort that G2 had to make it work, but he finds them.
I love that Jojo's consistently looking for these plays where he can. He catches out Hans Sama, even though the flash comes through, he still connects the ultimate onto him, and then Hans Sama is just completely trapped. Same for Broken Blade. The wall positioning was fantastic, and it allows MKOI to, at the very least, get 2 more kills and buy themselves a little bit more time. They need to find another play like that if they want to turn this game around. A window where G2 is a little bit disconnected and they can find these picks.
But this is now where you've kind of got the Seeker's arm guard there. You can actually start to make some of these plays, and even going towards like a pretty defensive build in the grand scheme of things, like the Morello kind of there for the shred, but also the Merc threads, just to make sure that you can actually survive some of the CC that's coming through. It seems like Jojo has kind of said, right lads, let's get this into the backpack and see if we can carry this game forward with some of these big ultimates.
Hans Sama won't have his flash for the next 3 minutes or so, and Alvaro's Solar Flare looms large in the distance, especially with there being an Elder Dragon fight as a possibility in a minute 30. SkewMond incredibly strong. There's the Solar Flare. Caps able to dodge to the side of it. G2 still on the front foot, as to be expected with them having such a substantial gold lead. But MKOI have shown that they can land a few punches at least.
Elder spawning in a minute. Looks like G2 are just going to patiently wait as KOI gets given more time to farm up.
Yeah.
I feel a little bad for Supa because I keep looking at his itemization. I feel like he's just been sitting on this itemization for so long.
He's had the tunneler for a long time.
Yeah.
Expectation is he'll go Spear next. Spear of Sojourn would be...
Yeah, there we go. Okay. The Spear is a really nice pickup on the Ezreal. I mean, like, he was already doing damage. The problem is, can he do damage to Broken Blade? Because you can see that ult. I think it healed Broken Blade. Like,
I will say, though, at this stage, right, like, SkewMond isn't getting any stronger. He's, like, sure, he's got one item, but it's not going to be, like, Naafiri is going to be a massive late game threat in this position. Hans Sama is this poke forest, which is starting to teeter off a little bit as well. Still decent. Yes, Broken Blade is an issue, but I think MKOI are kind of hitting a bit of critical mass themselves, so I think G2 still need to be pretty careful.
They're definitely getting towards it. I think in 99 out of 100 fights, I would still take G2 in this position over MKOI, but I agree with you that MKOI are getting towards the position where it might be a little bit tricky for G2 to take the fights.
You're saying, but it's also like 5k is on this SkewMond.
Oh,
there's a base here.
Yeah,
MKOI have forgotten about the base. Is it the classic? Is it Elder for Nexus? SkewMond and Labrov are trying to keep MKOI around the Elder Drake. G2 don't really have a wave. Alvaro stunning SkewMond, who jumps into the pit and will not land the smite. It's Elyoya who gets it. Broken Blade tanking up the towers. Myrwn back in base. Jojo with a good Emperor survival. Keep Broken Blade at bay. Summer and Caps, they're trying to shepherd in the wave here as the Nexus towers are their first target. Caps a little different mindset to Summer and Broken Blade. MKOI get the Elder. They lose both their Nexus towers for it. Elyoya on the chase here. Broken Blade doesn't have flash, will dodge the root caller and has a blast cone to get away.
This may have just changed the whole game. A massive TP coming through from Jojo to get back to base, to act as a guardian for the Nexus, means that G2 cannot trade the Elder for Nexus. The Elder goes in favor of MKOI, and now they can finally escape from their base.
And potentially fight for this Baron as well with the Elder sold. Labrov tried desperately to interrupt Jojo's reset, or the TP, but wasn't able to do it. And now MKOI, they're on towards it. TP towards the top side from Caps though. G2 looking to potentially interrupt here, but I think they're too late.
I think Caps will poke his head in, and that's about it. You can see Broken Blade and Summer just catching the wave in mid, making sure that's pushed up. Inhibitor in the bot side has respawned for MKOI. Top side inhib up in 30 seconds time.
They also got bounty gold for that, which might not seem like a lot, but remember that there was an 8k gold difference between the two. We're so late into the game that the gold difference doesn't really matter, but for KOI, it means that itemization-wise, they've caught up significantly to the gap that existed between them and G2 before.
And that's what I was saying just before the Elder Dragon started. A huge amount of that gold difference was SkewMond to Elyoya, but you're playing Ivern. Your items are cheaper. Also, you're just going to be a support role regardless. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a bit far behind, whereas when you look at people like Myrwn and Jojo who are actually doing pretty well and up there now, Jojo hitting full build, they are serious threats. So G2 definitely going to have to play this a little bit safer. I do think though the double spell shield's going to do work for some of these fights if Jojo tries to look for the big play.
I think they're thinking of using the Taliyah ult to try and end the game.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a quick look at Caps. Is he sitting on a blue pot? It looks like right now he doesn't have one equipped. Because if you get one of those, it really does help with doing any siege damage towards these structures. But you can see that they are hovering around, and Alvaro has snuffed this out. He is trying desperately to clear out what vision. G2 have got one deep ward into MKOI's jungle that hasn't been spotted out. Myrwn walking over it right now.
And Caps doesn't have TP, only Broken Blade has one. Alvaro now walking out of base. Let's see if he can clear anything away. We're going to step in that direction.
We've talked extensively about how, yes, G2 have played the map really well, but at the end of the day, their ability to siege against this comp has always been very difficult. They were very reliant on the Baron. And now they find themselves in a situation where this Ivern is going to offer an insane amount. I would argue even more than what this Naafiri is going to be able to offer in the team fights. And it becomes this range difference that we talked about at the very beginning of the draft, where can G2 close that gap against this MKOI comp?
And this is one of the games where it becomes very impactful that your Nexus turrets do respawn. Like, this is actually going to be the saving grace for MKOI in the fact that all you have to do is delay enough, and no objectives on the map to realistically draw you out of the base means that G2, they can try some funny business, but the timing window for that is going to be slipping away.
Well, the Baron expires in 40 seconds time. Elder up in 2.5. The Labrov going in. Caps caught out by Supa. Jojo slides forward, but Caps flashes across the wall. Labrov with the Unbreakable will keep himself alive for now. Alvaro the first target here for G2, and they will take him down. MKOI look for a little bit of an engage, and they lose their support for it.
A very close fight that almost ends in Caps losing his life. He does have to lose his flash, but Alvaro committing to the fight. There was little that he could go. KOI wasn't prepared to follow up in that exchange, and now G2 had the numbers advantage.
Yeah, they got Caps, maybe that could have been it, but now everyone on G2 starting to come through. You've even got Caps who can just use that ultimate to join up with the team once more.
Have to remember, G2 still have that Ocean Soul. It's going to do a lot of work for them throughout fights like this. Broken Blade caught with the root caller. SkewMond's pushing through the top side. He's being met by Supa. Elyoya and Jojo trying to keep Summer at bay down towards this bottom side. SkewMond, though, using the Hounds effectively to block those Mystic shots. Jojo knocked up. Unstoppable Onslaught, Chain of Corruption, stopwatch just in time to dodge the Decimating Smash as well. Caps on his way across. He's targeting the Inhibitor first. Labrov will go down, and Alvaro's back alive. The Inhibitor goes out as SkewMond now needs to eviscerate his way across the wall.
G2 jump onto Jojo, but they don't actually have a damage source behind them. It's a Sion and an Alistar with a Varus chucking some arrows that he can, but it means that Jojo's able to survive. And now Labrov is down, but no objectives, as you say. It's still a minute away, so at least you get to push these waves back out with some time bought.
I mean, KOI, I admire their resilience. They've utilized this wave clear fantastically to keep their Nexus alive. And even at a numbers disadvantage, they remain strong with holding the line. The Elder spawns in 45 seconds. I wonder how G2 will respond this time. Will they look for the fight, or they look to try and trade the Elder for Nexus?
They don't really have any deep wards to go for like a double deep TP into the MKOI base. Supa changing his itemization up a little bit here, going for the Blade of the Ruin King on the Ezreal to try and work his way through this Sion. Caps TP's in. Flashes up for most people. We see Jojo and Caps don't have theirs. Broken Blade doesn't have his either. MKOI are the first to gain control of the river, but they do need to be careful because their base is laid bare. Those Nexus towers, at least not respawned on the mini-map as far as I can see. Caps chunked out, the Elder now spawning.
You still have to be careful of that bottom wave, though. Super Creep's going to do work. Poke doing work as well here for G2.
Supa jumps into the pit, decimating smash coming out from Broken Blade. He's stunned up by Alvaro. SkewMond looking to jump into the back of it. Chain of Corruption hits onto Jojo, but the Emperor's Divide pushes Labrov back. Broken Blade low, and Supa continues to open up. Caps diving onto Alvaro on the backside, and SkewMond dives in. Jojo falling lower. SkewMond able to take him out in time. Broken Blade surviving as well, and the Ocean Soul is doing so much work for G2. Supa trying to hit Mystic Shot after Mystic Shot, but there's nothing mystical about how damn tanky Broken Blade is. Elyoya dies, G2 survive, and they TP into the base.
The health bars are just too much. There is not enough in the tank to take down the tank. And with Jojo gone, so are MKOI's chances.
Only Myrwn stands, he's knocked up, he's locked up, and he's shut out of the game. G2, for moments it looked like MKOI had found their miracle, but G2 aren't praying to the same god you are. They will go 2-0 up in the series.
A valiant defense from MKOI. They stalled the game out for so long, but in the final fight they just couldn't bring it together. This series is heating up and you won't want to miss it. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll see you in a bit.